So let's talk Devola, huh?
What I thought I'd do is just kind of give him my best understanding of events from the beginning. As you guys think of things that you have questions about, or if I get something egregiously wrong, let me know, because I'm doing this from recollection.
Yeah.
And I've only been here for 2 years, but
Right.
the two previous gentlemen that sat in Jamie's seat and Charlie's seat, they've been here since the beginning. And
Okay.
our engineer has been here since the beginning. So I've gleaned a lot of this from them. The entire issue really began in 2010 when Devola, the health commissioner, suspected that there were high nitrate levels in the soil.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some testing done by the EPA. And some of those tests revealed slightly higher than acceptable levels of nitrates.
How slightly are we talking? Like just a couple percent, or like are we talking like significantly?
Barely over.
Just barely over.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the health department would have those exact numbers for you. I just don't remember
Fair
them.
enough.
But it's just over the level. So the decision at that point was made to ask the health department to declare an emergency. The health department said, no, we're going to do more testing. And they did their own testing and found no elevated levels.
Uh-huh.
The EPA was invited back down. They did further testing, and they found that the levels had either gone down or were now below acceptable levels.
Okay.
So that's where this whole thing began.
So it's still in dispute as to whether or not they even need it.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
And there's no, and if I'm remembering correctly, Kevin, there's no concrete way to tell where the nitrates come from.
Yeah, the origin of the nitrates was never determined.
Aha.
That area historically has been a farming area, and what a lot of the folks in that area say is, well, of course they put nitrates on the fields.
Fertilizer.
Right, exactly. Or because it's near a river, we've got things being put on the ground upriver that are coming downriver that are affecting. So there's been some real dispute.
I see.
The then health director refused to declare an emergency. He said, based on this testing, this is not an emergency. He's no longer in that position, but he was for, I think, 6 years and refused the entire time to say that this is an emergency. In 2011, County Commissioner Cora Marshall and County Commissioner Steve Weber signed what are called findings and orders from the EPA. The EPA did a report. EPA said, yes, you had elevated nitrate levels, you must sewer. Well, the commissioners at that point have a couple choices. They can refuse to sign those and say, we agree with our health department, there is no issue. They can sign those, which they chose to do, which moves the process forward, or they can negotiate. What typically happens is those county commissioners will negotiate, and they'll say, well, we agree that somewhere down the line we need to sewer. Let's establish a timeline, right? 25 years from now, we want to be sewered. Or if the EPA says, no, it's more pressing, then you begin to negotiate about phasing the project. You may have heard Roger talk about that. Mm-hmm. We have this $15 million project. How do you do it? Well, you do phase
15 million start to end?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have final numbers yet.
Right.
That's where we
Does that
think
include
we
the
are.
tap fee? He was talking about a tap fee the other day.
No.
No.
Because that's on the residents.
That's on the
Okay.
residents, exactly. Yeah.
Any resident or business that taps into for capacity into the county sewer system has to pay a tap fee.
How many tap fees would we be looking at in Devola?
550 or 563 is what I think the official home count is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So
That's a third of the cost of the entire project for the county on the residents.
yeah. Well, the residents will pay the whole cost.
Oh, they're paying. Yeah, that's okay.
They'll
You
pay
guys
the
are looking
entire
for funding
cost.
to help them.
Exactly.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So, again, the commissioners at that time had several options. Instead of availing themselves of the negotiate or the no option, they immediately signed the findings and orders.
I see.
That's always bothered me.
So is that why none of them are here right now?
I think they lost for other reasons.
Okay.
But I've never heard any of them speak publicly about their motivation
Right.
for that. And only two of them signed it. The third gentleman wasn't present that day, so he didn't He didn't sign it. It was Cora Marshall and Steve Weber. So now the findings and orders are signed. The residents of Devola in the interim said, well, if we have a nitrate level and we've got these elevated tests, we need to fix that. So the local water association, Putnam Water Association, put in a $2.5 million filtration system called the reverse osmosis system. Once that was in, more testing was done. And now the nitrate levels were so low, the concern was apparently you need a certain amount of dirty water in the system that protects the pipes. It sounds counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but the water was so clean that the worry was that the pipes are going to go bad. So they actually had to add dirty water back into the system. Now the nitrate levels are way below the level of concern. So the Devola residents think we fixed our problem. Right? The Putnam Water Association has invested this
That's why
money.
that gentleman was starting to get a little heated over there.
Right. But again, you have the signed findings and orders, which are like a contract.
Yeah.
So in the background, while all this is going on, the city of Marietta has invested money to upgrade their treatment facility because they're expecting to get the effluent, the sewage, from Devola.
Because the two commissioners that he spoke of signed an intergovernmental agreement to send that sewage to the Marietta plant. So based upon that, they said, okay, we need to upgrade our plant. So they started working on their plant.
Right. So I'm glad you're taping this because it's hard to follow.
It's going to take me some time.
So you've got the MOU, the intergovernmental agreement, plus you've got the signed findings and orders that one group of commissioners signed. An election is held in 2012, and two new commissioners come in and stop the process. They're upset that the investment is made by Putnam Water Association. It's fixed the problem in terms of the science. We're not going to put in a sewer system that's not necessary. So they stopped the entire process. That went on for 7 years. During that interim, the city of Marietta, because they'd invested in their water treatment facility, sued the county and said, we've invested this money because you said you were going to sewer. We want some sort of recompense for that. So the city actually asked for $16 million in damages. Right, it's a crazy number. So that's where we've been for the last 7 or 8 years. That court case, I ran because I agreed with this gentleman. I don't think Devola needs to be sewered.
Right.
I ran on that platform. Vote for me. I'll vote against the Devola sewer. I'll join my two colleagues, the guys that were here at the time, and we'll fight the sewer. 2 weeks before I got sworn in, the judge ruled and said, no, you have a signed contract, you have signed findings and orders. I'm not even going to look at the science. I don't care about whether the nitrate levels are where they are. You have a signed contract, you're going to move forward and put the sewer in. So what we have is a double remedy. Right? The Putnam Water Association, remedy number one, fixed the nitrate problem by putting in the reverse osmosis system for $2.5 million. Remedy number two, now the residents of Devola are going to spend an additional $15 million to fix a problem that doesn't exist. So I'm very sympathetic to his position, but we're bound by our oath to do what the court says.
For sure, yeah.
So they want to slow the process. We don't want to cost the residents. If the county's fined for not performing on the court order and the DFFO, we will be fined, the county will be fined for not doing that. That cost will fall onto the taxpayers of Washington County.
Right.
So being good stewards of money.
Yeah, unless Jamie's read this in the paper, I don't know that he's aware of it, but the judge threatened up to $12 million in penalties if we don't move forward. So when I told him we're actually trying to protect you, that's what we're trying to protect them from.
Right.
We're following the judge's order. You got to be done with this in 2 years, or that threat's hanging out there.
So he mentioned that this issue is actually going before, I think you said district court?
Yeah, 4th District.
It already did. It went through the day after election, and there's still no ruling on it.
Okay.
So that was back in November of 2000.
Yeah. The judge is a guy by the name of Linton, Linton Lewis.
Okay.
He showed no interest at all in the science of it. So.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's a possibility that it could be overruled? His findings could be, or his decision could be overruled.
Hang on one sec.
So I see as of right now where it's going, but do you think? I mean, what could stop it?
A ruling by the 4th District.
And you're just waiting on that, and there's no
Yeah.
deadline as to when there could be a ruling on it.
Actually, it would be a big scramble because what Dash was asking in the 4th District Court of Appeals was to become a party, not asking for a ruling on the project. They're asking to become a party in the lawsuit.
Dash is a group of citizens that have hired an attorney from Cleveland, I think.
Yes, Greg DeGullis.
So they're just asking, as Jamie said, to be included in the case.
So even if they win this court case, they become a party. There's still nothing in that court case that I heard, because I went to the hearing, that I heard that changes anything at that point. They would have to file another suit, and
Yeah.
as Kevin said, there's a big hammer to drop if we don't perform.
Sure. So obviously you guys are moving forward as you have to. Let me just ask you, what do you think? What would the percentage chance be that Devola gets sewered?
Well, I'd say 99%.
You think it's happening?
I think it's a Hail Mary at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree.
Yeah. Because that's what I think that's. Because I've talked to a couple people about it, and that's kind of been what's unclear, where it's like.
Yeah.
But if that clears things up.
That's my answer, keeping in mind that I'm sympathetic with their position.
Yeah.
I don't want a sewer Devola. I don't think it's necessary. My parents live in Devola.
Yeah.
If I thought there was a safety issue, I'd want to keep my own parents safe. I don't think there is, but the court has ruled.
Yeah.
So.
And, I mean, you said each resident is going to have to pay that tap fee individually, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Every household, not every
Yeah.
resident, every household.
every household. Well, I mean, I know it's mostly not low to moderate income, but I've seen low income housing out there, and they're still going to be responsible.
Well,
for
and
it.
that's what the engineer
Yeah.
spoke of, is not being able to phase the contract because of the time period that the project is set forward. If he was able to phase it and say, let me do this area,
Right.
then you could low to moderate income that area, and you would be able to get funding just for that area.
Right.
And
Right.
then move on to the next area, and so on and so. That would lower the overall cost also.
25% of the homes in Devola are valued at lower than $100,000. So because
They have trailer parks out there. and
Exactly.
stuff.
Because the court is forcing us to look at Devola as a whole, we've got a few very, very nice homes,
Yeah.
very, very wealthy folks that have totally skewed the LMI, the low to moderate income rating. So it's not I don't think, a fair process.
So then I guess we're talking funding.
Mm.
And I know you said that you guys are going through all the avenues you can right now.
Mm.
So how much money do you think that you can... I mean, I know you guys are looking, so I guess maybe that's not even a fair question because you're still looking. But
It's not, because what I would not want to portray would be a false, until you have the money in hand. And
Yeah.
you can say, Washington County sewer customers, that we're going to be able to save you this money because we have this confirmation of funds.
Mm-hmm.
If we guesstimate or...
yeah, I get
Yeah.
it. I get it. It's not a fair question.
Yeah.
But I don't want to give a false sense
Sure.
of hope.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Now, when we have it, we're obviously more than happy to share.
Yeah. But
Whatever.
we've been very active in looking at a variety of different things. And, Roger's an unsung hero in this process. The only reason our county engineer is involved is because none of us have the technical expertise to be able to understand some of the without his explanation.
Right.
So we've invited him to be a part of this. So when this woman here talks about, or when Glenn, the gentleman, talks about him being taken away from his regular responsibilities, there's something to that, because he's lent an awful lot of time helping us to understand the engineering side of it.
When do you think the project will be starting then?
Probably later this year.
You think later this year they're
Yeah.
going to start?
In order to meet the time frame the judge has laid out, we really have to break ground at the end of this year.